Woollarawarre Bennelong of the Wangal is an exhibition commemorating the 200-year anniversary of Bennelong's passing.
Well, we're on Bennelong Point, what's been renamed Bennelong Point, where he had his home.
And it essentially tells the story of Bennelong, his capture and his trip to England and his return to Australia and his role in Aboriginal society after that.
And I think it's really beautiful just think that all these images are of a man and a time that was just here, right where we are. That's so exciting.
He'd been born in 1764, so this boy was 6 years old in 1770 when Lieutenant James Cook came to Botany Bay. When he was captured by Governor Phillip and brought into Sydney, he quickly became an informant. Phillip's motives were to have an interpreter, to have a go-between, to be able to tell the Indigenous people in the Sydney area that he wasn't here just to kill them. He wanted to be friendly and he wanted to talk to them. Couldn't do it without the language, couldn't do it without people coming in. So Bennelong was that sort of mediator that he wanted. The relationship grew steadily. Bennelong attempted to bring Phillip into his kinship, and that was done in Aboriginal society by exchanging names. And he gave him his name, Woollarawarre, and he exchanged that for governor, so Bennelong could call himself governor. He also called him Bianga, father, and Phillip called him Duru, which is son. Phillip wrote to Sir Joseph Banks in 1791, he said, when I return, I will bring my old friend Bennelong because he's an intelligent man and I can show him how we live. So the idea is it's a civilising agenda by Phillip. He wants Bennelong to go to London, be exposed to British society and come back saying how much he loves it. While in London in 1793, Bennelong and Warrane, as it says in the book, sang this particular Aboriginal song. So this is the first Aboriginal song that was ever heard in Europe, or the Northern Hemisphere if it comes to that. And they're singing this song, and the words are Barabula, Manjian Wayanguna, Barabula, Barama, Manjian Wayanguna. That's all there is to it. And this song is also in manuscripts that were recorded in Sydney Cove. They said it was a song about their lovers and how they missed them in Sydney, Australia.
That song was only sourced about 5 years ago by historian Vincent Smith, and it was recreated in that same year by two Indigenous performers. And I think having that in the exhibition has added a really sort of poignant sort of reminder of Bennelong's presence.
The Donald Friend paintings are Donald Friend's interpretation of the life and times of Bennelong, and they've been rendered with gold leaf, which makes you think that Donald Friend probably had some high esteem for Bennelong himself. To use gold leaf means something in visual art history. He's interpreted Bennelong's life in ways that are imagined and are not. There's some things that can't possibly be true, as in the case of Bennelong playing a didgeridoo. Didgeridoos weren't from this part of the world, so that couldn't possibly be. So it's a non-Aboriginal perspective on an Aboriginal life.
He died after a long illness, but the wrong story put around in books was that he'd died in a fight in the streets, or he'd been speared in a payback. That didn't happen. He was still a big man. He was still revered by his people. And the fact that he was, this idea that he was despised by his people is completely wrong.
We can think of him as a very canny and smart man who was able to navigate the different societies.
He was very important. He was a mediator between his people, and it's a shared history. It's a history of European settlement, and it's a history of the Indigenous people that were here for 20,000 years plus, and it reminds us that Sydney has an ancient past. It's not just something that's 250 years old.